Okay. All right. So, if everybody who is feeding into us, welcome. George Pottencoulum and myself are getting all set up here to go through this week's real estate news for North Florida and a little bit of the national news, which of course is going to impact what we do here locally a little bit. I get the screen share all set up. All right. So today's July 22nd. Welcome to our, I don't even know what week number we are on of our updates, but we certainly enjoy doing them. Again, my name is Kelly DeLucia. I'm the lead listing specialist with Welch Team Keller Williams. With me always is George Pottencoulum, who is our lead buyer's agent on the team. George, tell everybody.
Hello, everyone.
What about a fun fact?
Fun fact about real estate or fun fact about me?
About you. Curveball.
Fun facts are that I don't know. It's fun. Everybody kind of knows
George
most of the facts about me.
George moved during COVID. How about that?
He sold a home and bought a home right in the middle of COVID.
Absolutely. So it is possible. So let's, hey, Evan, hey, Debbie, Mark, Kim, Eric, Sean, good to see you guys here. Let's jump right into it. We're going to do our best to get us wrapped up right by 4 o'clock this week. And weekly trends first, I want to go over what we're seeing here in terms of home stats, home sales stats for our Northeast Florida MLS system. So all of this data is pulled straight from NFR stats. So interesting information. So we are seeing a slight uptick of this past week of a few more homes went on the market, a few more went under contract, and then of course a few more sold. But what's really interesting is if you take a look, so I went forward one more on the slide. So George, I'd love your input on this, but if you can see, so if you add up the number of new listings we put on the market in the last 2 weeks, and then you add up the number of pending sales that have gone under contract in the last 2 weeks, you're going to see a substantial difference there, almost 300 homes. So George, what do you think about that? Do you feel that buyers are maybe revisiting homes they had crossed off their list because there's no inventory? You know, how do you feel about we're putting more homes under contract that are coming on the market. So are those the lingering homes that have taken a little bit longer to go under contract finally starting to go contingent?
Yes, 100%. I mean, you could see if a great home comes on the market, right area, right price, right features, it's going to go under contract within probably the first 2 to 3 days. And most of that time is just because you're spending a little bit extra time asking for multiple offers.
Right.
So outside of that, everything else that's been sitting there, people are going back and saying, okay, let me go reconsider this other home. Maybe it was priced a little bit higher to kind of capture that hot market. And you've noticed a lot of price drops within a week to 2 weeks on some of these homes because they do want to get their homes sold and not miss the boat in trying to sell. So yes, we're definitely seeing a few more people coming back around and revisiting more properties or continuing to negotiate on properties and getting it to the right price just so that they can get it under contract. So yes, we're definitely seeing a huge tick. I mean, that's a great stat to see.
Yeah.
More homes going under contract than new listings.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we would love to have more listings though, because we know inventory is super, super tight out there. But for all the sellers who are thinking about putting their house on the market, I mean, we really pretty much everything that's going on the market is going under contract.
Right. And it's honestly just a matter of time, for the right buyer to show up, see it, and make that offer. And more than likely, you don't have to adjust your price a whole lot. Just other than kind of keeping it fresh in front of other people's eyes in regards to their searching. But right now, it's a great time for them to just sit. If you don't have to immediately sell, to kind of sit on it and just wait for the right buyer to come along.
Sometimes it's hard because we talk, if you've been on the market for 2 weeks, 10 10 showings, no offers, or 2 weeks, no offers. That's about the time that we recommend adjusting the price. In today's market, it's been interesting because 7 days have gone by. If you haven't gotten an offer, you can see people start to get antsy because other homes are, going under contract on day 1, day 2, day 3. So by day 7, people think they've missed the boat. But I'm here to say, those homes are going under contract. They're still attracting over 97% of their listing price. And because our supply levels are so low, this is, of course, contributing to that factor. One of the things that we have been continuing to talk about, why buy now? What makes it so attractive to buy a home now? This number is actually a little bit lower. So if you see here today, the average interest rate nationally is 3.03%. It's actually a little bit lower than that now. So your mortgage payment on a $300,000 property would be $1,270. If you go back to when my parents were buying their first house, they were in the 12.7 1980s interest rate range. Actually, theirs was, I know, a little bit higher than that. So they had almost, they had more than, almost double the amount of the mortgage payment, or triple the amount of the mortgage payment, but same house, same property. 300,000, of course, was a lot different than 300,000 in today's dollars and cents. But this is an incredible stat. Interest rates are crazy low.
They're crazy low in comparison to a year ago. I had a buyer call me today and say, hey, we bought a house a year ago. We thought we got a great interest rate at 4%, which at the time, yes, it was. But now we're a year later and we're actually they're able to get 3% on their interest rate, which is a significant drop in order to say, okay, well, let me take a whole 1% difference in it and just run it for another 30 years and obviously pay a lot less. So that's a big, big difference for refinance. That's why we hear lenders just struggling with the amount of workload, because it's not just people buying new homes. It's a ton of people refinancing their current properties if they bought it anything in the last 10 years.
Absolutely. I refied myself, my own loan, and I 2.5 years ago purchased. So what are some of the things that we're monitoring? And this is on a local basis. So of course we can talk a little bit nationally in a minute. But one of the things that we're tracking at school openings. So St. Johns County just pushed back the start of school by 3 weeks. So after, right around that Labor Day timeframe. Duval County is set to meet Thursday to discuss if they are going to make any changes to the options that they've already laid out. So of course that might change what we see in the housing market, dependent upon if you're in a 2-income household and now a parent needs to stay home longer, or they go strict virtual school, that might impact the real estate market slightly. Travel is, air travel is significantly down. I think TSA is reporting 78% from this time last year to now, which is just incredible. That's, we're seeing a lot of local travel. We live in Florida. There's a lot of drivable options around here, but, watching travel really impacts, how much money the people that are able to travel or would be able to travel but can't because they can't go anywhere, where are they putting that money? Which brings us to the next box of, are they putting that in savings? Are they saving that money? How's their, credit card utilization? What happens when the stimulus checks run out? There's a lot of stuff that we are monitoring when it comes, to where are people saving, where are they putting their money? Were you supposed to get married, and instead of being able to have your wedding, did you decide to put that money towards a down payment instead, which is trending right now too? And then last but not least, the little open sign is for our small businesses. What's happening on the small business front that is going to impact the real estate market. Jacksonville is one of the top cities in the country for small businesses with less than 20 employees. So as we continue to see businesses, especially restaurant, hospitality, services like massages, hair, nails, things like that, that are at limited capacity, how is that going to impact, one, who the buyers are, and two, what are people going to be able to make those real estate transactions? I don't know what the majority of the customer, I would love to see a percentage breakdown. George, maybe you can add in here, what are the industries that the majority of your A buyers are coming from right now?
Well, it's funny. I mean, like, we have a lot of the last two relocations that I've had have stuck around the construction industry, medical industry. A lot of that is, of course, booming in this area. A lot of the higher end things that have been growing here in Jacksonville for quite some time. So that is fantastic. And I mean, kind of circling back to that last aspect of slides, we do live in Florida. We're also one of the largest destinations in the summer time frame when you think about all the other countries in the world that are coming to this area to go to Disney World, to SeaWorld, to Tampa, come visit just the beaches, Miami, all of that. So there's definitely some savings aspects there, but there's also some economy effects where, some of those tourism type places may not be making as much money as they typically are. But again, we're talking about giants here like Disney World. They're not, one summer is not going to, bankrupt a company like Disney. So I think overall that we're going to be okay, and the economy is going to continue being strong because of the fact that so much is poured into the small businesses. So much has so much just support has gone to the small businesses that they'll continue to thrive as long as the world continues to move forward. I've always said that. It's like through this whole time, we need to continue to figure out how to move forward. It may be different, but it has to go forward.
Right. We know that we are going to be living with this reality for a very long time. So how do we safely move all of our industries forward for the next 12 to 18 months? No doubt that the real estate landscape will change. I think for the better going forward. We've already seen some awesome positive changes with people being able to do more things virtually than they ever have done before. So those are all the things that we are just trying to keep a daily eye out for and monitor locally, which leads us into nationally, what's happening out there. We've tried to keep an eye on new construction as well, and who's purchasing property on the resale side versus the new construction side. So we'll get into that. New mortgage purchase applications. So this is not refis. This is just new mortgage applications nationally are up 19% year over year. And that's a pretty staggering number. And we've been tracking that since we started to come out of the low drop in mid-April. That number has gone from a negative 40%, and now we're up 19% year over year. Average mortgage rate last week, it was a little over 3%. Now we're kind of right around that 2.96, which is incredible. Not going to get into this in huge detail because it's pretty tricky, but more people are paying mortgage payments than anticipated. So nationally, there was a study done that's done monthly. Do you anticipate that you'll have enough money to make your mortgage payment? And a lot of the people that maybe those numbers were underestimated, and more people made those mortgage payments than they had anticipated being able to make, which gives the larger economies some hope when it comes time to what happens when the stimulus either ends, the unemployment ends, or we are not able to renegotiate some sort of extended stimulus package for homeowners. And then new home purchase sales index. So this is just with builders. Builders are up 18% from last month in June. And we were at a builder this morning, and George can talk to that, but that builder was sharing with us just a little bit about how their sales were tracking, which were phenomenal since March. And this is a new construction community in a brand new neighborhood.
And we're not just talking about brand new neighborhood. I mean, brand new infrastructure, everything. You just about had the roads put in. There are two families living in a community that is going to be of 10,000 people. The next scheduled closing is sometime in August. So you can imagine, I mean, these plans for these large communities are continuing to grow and not stopping in any way. because there is that growth. There is that aspect of this area is going to continue to develop, and whether it's people moving from different parts of town, but there's no reason for us to look in this local area and have any fear that the real estate market isn't going to be very strong. And in turn, you look at the rest of the market. I mean, real estate's always kind of set the tone for your economy, and that's our real estate market is very, very strong. I tell people this all over the world when I talk to them. They ask how strong real estate is in Florida. It's phenomenal.
Yep.
You know, there is no reason for us to have any concerns about things going forward because of the fact that our real estate market is strong, and we're going to continue that way. There's probably no sign of us slowing down.
There's great news on the horizon for our local market. By everything we know so far, we're projecting strong sales into at least the end of 2021. And we've talked about that in some of our previous weekly chats. I'd refer you guys back to the one we did with Quentin Harris when we talked about 26,000 jobs being added to our local economy next year alone. So, we certainly have strong indicators. And if you hear somebody out there saying, well, I don't know, the market's bad. The market is not bad here. The market is great here. If you previously tried to sell your home and it didn't sell for some reason, come talk to us. We can certainly help set you on the right path. If you're a buyer and you're looking for a house and you can't find exactly what you're looking for, come talk to us. There are other things, there are other ways that we can go about doing a home search for you to try and match you up with what you want. And then, one other stat on new home sales. So we have low inventory on those resale homes. So that means that buyers who need to purchase, they shuffle into the new construction communities because there might be standing inventory. And you can see on this slide, Jacksonville, this is the market share that new construction sales are taking. So we're sitting probably right about, 20% now, and we were maybe about 18% last year. So new home sales are taking 20% of the overall closings in the Northeast Florida market.
Right, and kind of go back to what we were talking about, the new construction. One of the things I forgot to mention is that the builder actually stated, one builder was talking about, they see about 30 to 40 people through every single week looking for new homes, just filtering into the neighborhood. A lot of people may come with just the fact of, hey, I'm just sightseeing. I'm not really in the market, but you never know. Once they come there, they see the property, they see the facilities, they see the cost associated, whether they're here, family stuck in town because of the virus, or if they're just out and about looking and realizing, wow, this is a great community and the fees are actually very reasonable for a major planned community like what Silverleaf is.
Right.
But that's not the only one. We have several like that all throughout our Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Orange Park market.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of being in where we are. It's just so easily accessible, and the options are just phenomenal.
I would agree with every single one of those points. We are a magnet for master plan, new construction communities, and we know the data is showing us that people are more and more trending towards wanting new, clean, healthy lifestyle living. And, as we continue to, move forward and try and navigate what do we do in our new COVID world, those things are even more important to everybody. So new construction certainly has an advantage in that respect. So the one other thing that I wanted to bring up this week, because I feel that we've gotten a lot of questions lately from investors, whether they're more institutional investors or your casual fix and flip, person that does one home at a time. What about foreclosures? Are we going to see lots of foreclosures? Jacksonville, North Florida, St. Augustine market has been very low and with foreclosures over about the last 4 or 5 years. So everyone's wondering, will that come back? We've heard so much about people not paying their mortgage payments or maybe not being able to, unemployment rates. What will happen to our market? But 2 things. So this is a report that I actually got from our MCA Pete Sherrill at Keller Williams, who posted it from Keeping Current Matters. And there's 2 things I thought that were very important to pull out of the report. So if somebody applied for forbearance, part of the CARES Act had a footnote essentially in there that you had 180 days, but then at the end of that 180 days, you have the right to request and obtain an extension for another 180 days. So you could potentially be seeing people who haven't paid their mortgage payment for a whole year. Will that happen here? I'm not sure, but that's certainly going to keep foreclosures at bay for an extended length of time. And two, homeowner equity. So these numbers come from Black Knight Financial. So our market, especially, this really hit home with me. These are national numbers, but 77% of homeowners have at least 20% or more equity in your home. And that's huge when you look at somebody who's facing a situation where, you know, if they're not able to make their mortgage payments, what are their options? And if you have equity in your home, then you have some options there. There are people that, you know, certainly we don't want to get into what happened in 08, 09, where people are taking out large HELOCs on their property in order to have everyday living expenses. But when you have equity, you can sell and you can downsize. And you can get into you can get into different negotiations with your current lender, depending on who they are and how to restructure your mortgage payment and so on and so forth. So those are two big things. I don't know. George would probably be able to speak a little bit more in terms of what people are asking him about. Hey, have you seen anything lately for foreclosures? You know, are we going to have more come on the market? Because he works more on the investor side with buyers asking him those questions. But I think the answer for our market is going to be no. We're not going to be seeing a lot of those.
Not anytime soon. Just recently, looking over the past 6 months or last 4 months since the virus has hit, I've really only seen a handful of foreclosures come in. Now, again, those were typically ones that have already been foreclosed prior to the virus coming into effect. And it was also at a time when we currently are still in a moratorium for evictions, foreclosures. All of that has been completely put on hold.
Yeah.
And for the past couple of years, the foreclosure market and short sale market here in Northeast Florida has been very low, somewhere sitting between 2 to 5% of our general market. And most of those are kind of low end homes that were just not in the best of shape, and why people couldn't take care of them. There wasn't the equity there, but most people have it. And going forward, because of the options with forbearance, refinancing to a lower debt, there are so many options right now that I don't feel like the foreclosure market is going to really be a factor for us for at least the next 18 months, while we're still in this peak of this market where homes there just aren't enough of them, and new construction is still always going to run behind. For them losing a couple months worth of build time, they're going to continuously trying to be working towards filling in that demand for new construction. So the housing market's still going to be very, very tight for the next couple of years as far as listings go.
Right.
So buyers are going to be continuously coming in, trying to figure out best ways to get it, which means that they're going to pay a little bit more for that home than they did the year before.
Yep.
And that's fantastic for sellers, but it's a good thing for us because we have a lot of people coming to this area, which means we will always be in a good market for both buying and selling homes for about a half of a year at least. I don't, like Quentin said, we've had a few people say it, our real estate market is probably not going to see a slowdown till sometime end of 2021, maybe going into 22, just because, and we're talking very specific to our area, but I think generally with a lot of areas, we'll see that kind of stay strong for a while.
Yeah, I think something interesting too, you know, I was reading another agent looking for some assistance the other day, a specific situation where they felt that their seller needed to sell their home to a company like Open Door in order to get it sold. And my first question back, you know, is, well, why? You know, even properties that aren't in the best condition are selling on the open market. You know, put that house in the MLS and price it according to the condition that it's in. And there are ways to get that home sold, you know. So sellers who are looking at a situation where they think that they're not going to be able to find a traditional buyer, so they need to fire sale their home to these online iBuyers, it's not necessarily the case. These are, I remind everybody, when you're looking at doing that, those are people who are going to purchase your home and they're going to put the most minimal amount of effort into that property, most likely paint it and put flooring in, and then jack that price up by about 30 grand and make a small percentage on that sale on the back end. So, but that speaks to our inventory right now that maybe 5 years ago, that would have been a more viable option for that seller who thought that they were in a pickle. But right now, there are plenty of ways to get that property sold and not have to take a huge haircut on your price. I was just seeing here, let's see, Tracy, escrow holdback or full renovation loans are hot for those homes. So yeah, there are people who are able to, we talked about, restructuring your mortgage a little bit ago, and this is just in order to make sure that you didn't go into foreclosure, to restructure your payments. But there are other ways, like Tracy just mentioned, to help people navigate those situations, take the equity out of their home and move on to something else. So there's a lot.
And to add a little bit, just back on the previous topic, one of the reasons why a lot of people didn't want to list their home is because they didn't want several people walking through it and be inconvenienced for showing their property and taking that risk. Obviously, the virus is in full effect, and it's out there, and you never know who else coming through, who's sick, who's being honest. But the good thing is with what we're doing and what has changed in the past 4 months is that we can virtually show your property in so many more ways that our team has been really doing for quite some time. But now that everybody's more open to viewing it that way first, before making their actual first showing. So by the time they actually walk into the property, it's shown so much more throughout the country that you never know when the right person's going to see it and potentially make that offer. So even the ones that do need a full renovation, and I've got probably one or two like that I know is coming up, they can easily go in, get that property turned around, flipped, or lived in, and turn into your own personal property for a good price, and have some equity in it already within the first 6 months of doing all that.
Yeah, I mean, there's right now with the inventory the way that it is, and mortgage prices the way that they are, there's a win-win scenario in there for the seller and the buyer in a lot of these situations. So that is all really that we had to share with you today, unless there is anything that you wanted to add, George.
I think it's a great topic. We had a lot of good conversation and good interaction with everybody watching and chatting today. Love that.
Yes, no, we really appreciate everybody who joins us, and we've got some big supporters that are here every single week, so we can't thank you so much. And if you I don't even know what I'm saying, we can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. And if you do have questions, keep commenting. We'll be sure to follow back up with you. We'll be here again next week. And I think every other week we're going to try and have a guest on one week and not a guest on another week, so we can be a little bit more interactive. But that is all. It's July 22nd. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.